Hello guys, welcome everyone. Welcome to a new video. And do you know guys what a wow and flutter effect is? Actually, I was watching this video saving photos to a voice recorder right before starting this video. And this video is such a great technological marvel because actually the data is just a stream of 0 and 1s. Sometimes it may be fluctuations, analog fluctuations. So they can be recorded anywhere and everywhere, even on a tiny voice recorder. So, this video talks about the wow and flutter effect, which is simply the variations in playback speed. Because in earlier times, we used to record data on the physical medium, for example, the magnetic tape. And if you see this hard disk, this also contains a physical medium of recording, which is platter. And when coming to flash storage like this, there is no physical media or moving mechanical parts involved. So due to presence of mechanics, some delay might happen or occur, and this results in slow and periodic changes in pitch. And while flutter involves the fast and fluctuations, which can make the sound appear rough and distorted. This effect is mainly found in the what to say audio tape machines, cassette recorders, and etc. It's a great watch. And we will now continue to our Cloudflare series. Let me open that website. Open our favorite note taking application. Let me zoom in so you guys can also experience what I am experiencing. And we are up to fast flux. No. One second. Allow me a single minute time. Sorry for the interruption, guys. I actually received a call. So let's continue. Where we were? We were opening cloudflare.com. Okay. Navigating to resources section and to the learning center. I think as per our last video, we have reached up to DNS amplification. So we are still on DDoS section. Common DDoS attack, I guess. And we were at DNS amplification. Now it's time to see the layer 3 attack, which is also known as network layer of OSI model. So what are layer 3 DDoS attack? The layer 3 DDoS attack aims to overwhelm its target with a large amount of data. A DDoS attack is like traffic jam clogging up a freeway, preventing regular traffic from reaching its destination. The layer 3 DDoS attack targets layer 3 in OSI model, which is simply refers to network layer. The goal of a layer 3 attack is to slow down or crash a program or to fill up capacity so that no one else, no one else can receive the service. L3 DDoS attack typically accomplish this by targeting network equipment and infrastructure. So layer 3 attacks target the network layer, not transport layer or application layer. Okay. So the layer 3 corresponds to creation of and distribution of IP addresses. So let's see how it actually attacks. So what is an OSI model? Okay, so you might not be able to see it because I have turned the dark mode on and somehow this text is blending with the background. So let me turn the light mode for a second. Once again, here is theme light mode. Yes, now you are able to see that. So physical layer basically transmits the raw bit data. Data link layer defines the format of the data. And layer 3, which we are currently relevancing to, it decides which physical path the data will take with the help of IP addressing mostly. Fourth is with actual transmission of data using the protocols like TCP and UDP. Session layer, which is layer 5, maintains the connection and responsible for controlling ports and session. Layer 6 is presentation layer, ensuring that the data remains in usable format where the encryption and decryption happens. And finally at 7th, application layer, where the application can access the network services. Okay, so what is in layer 3? Let me switch to dark theme. So the OSI layer, layer 3, is also called the network layer, and it comprises the protocol and technologies that make interconnected network. In other words, the internet possible. Okay, this is nothing important. The most important protocol in this process is internet protocol, IP. So you always heard that there is an IP address, but if you look more closely, there's IP4, IPv4 address and IPv6 address. So this is simply the IP protocols version 4 and version 6. Okay, we will study this article too. So I am opening this in background. After reading this article, we will jump back to that article too. So next, protocol at layer 3 do not open connections, ensure reliable data delivery, or indicate which service on the targeted device should use the data. Those are layer 4 processes. Layer 4 involves the use of transport protocols like TCP and UDP. Sending data across network without a layer 4 transport protocol is like mailing a letter to an address without making sure that the address is correct, including the name of a specific person at address who should open the letter, or use a reputable postal delivery service. The data may arrive or it may not be. This is why many layer 3 protocols are always used in conjunction with layer 4 protocol that ensures the data goes to the right place. So actually the packing of mail, you have to write something, then yeah, fold it down and put it in envelope, is the layer 4 task of TCP and UDP protocols. But in actually to write the address where this letter need to be sent is the task of layer 3. So both are very connected to each other. However, it is still possible to send data packets to a network destination over IP without the use of transport protocol. But how is that possible? A layer 3 is connectionless. A layer 3 DDoS attack do not need to open connection via TCP or indicate port assignments. So what is port? I guess so the IP address is a 32-bit or 128-bit value depending on which version you are using. But the port is the addition of another value that specifies on a single computer actually which application is requesting the data. For example, in my this Firefox window or Firefox tab, you can see that there is a multiple tab of Firefox. This is requesting a video from YouTube. This is requesting a different article called Internet Protocol, and this tab is requesting a different article called Layer 3 attacks. So it need to be decided that the same data coming from the this network from this smartphone actually piping through the same IP address, but still three different tabs are accessing this. So we have, in order to differentiate between it, we need to use port addresses. And what are the protocol used for layer 3? The IP internet protocol. I think we also got some alternative, which is IPsec, ICMP, and we also got some another ARP protocol, IGMP protocols. Wow. And yes, guys, even this kind of clear distinctions is not I have any found in other resources for CCNA. That's why I am already bugging you that this kind of curiosity is important in order to ace CCNA or any computer related examination. These are just pure basics. So the IP protocol routes and address packets of data so they arrive at correct destination. Every device that connects to internet has an IP address, and the IP protocol attach the correct IP address to each data packet, like addressing a letter to someone. Okay. And IPsec is actually a suite of several protocols, not a single protocol. IPsec is the encrypted version of IP used by VPN, similar to difference between HTTP and HTTPS. Okay. So basically SEC stands for security, and the IP is basically the same protocol, but with have a much more beefy bounce to it. Next is ICMP. The ICMP stands for Internet Control Message Protocol. Actually, the most easy thing or most common thing that every least tech enthusiast know in to ping devices to just to ensure that the device is connected to a network. You often find that someone is pinging google.com. Uh, even in order that you don't know how to do that, you just have to open console, command line, terminal, whichever operating system you are using. There's some form of command line thing. You have to zoom it so I can see, make you see. You just have to write ping google.com. And now I am pinging google.com from this computer. Let me stop it. And yes, this is the ping, the application or the program ping. What is creating is some ICMP messages. So it is also a connectionless protocol. It does not use a transport protocols like TCP or UDP. ICMP packets are sent over the IP alone. Developers and network engineers use ICMP for its ping and trace route functions. Typically, one use ICMP packet need to be sent at time. The difference between ping and trace route is kind of, both are kind of same thing used to test connectivity. Just ping only tells you that the connection is reachable and how much delay we are facing during the connection, while the trace route also shares that what kind of network hops we are experiencing in between. So if I trace route connection between my device and the Google server, the trace route actually tells how many hops it takes. Hops is basically router to router jump, how many routers are in between the connection of from our computer to the server that we are pinging. And now some other layer 3 protocols are IGMP protocol, which stands for Internet Group Message Protocol. It manages the IP multicast group, enabling multiple devices within a network to receive the same IP address or same IP traffic. I'm very sorry. And second is ARP protocol, which stands for Address Resolution Protocol. And I, for the regarding this protocol, I have already discussed in the first video because it is one of the interviewer's favorite question, and it is used within a single network only. Computer use this protocol to map IP address to MAC addresses within the network. And a MAC address is a unique identifier hardwired, basically burned in or permanent every device. For example, this a network card, this smartphone, every network devices has a MAC address built in and into very internet capable device, and it is like a fingerprint. It can be randomized but is not easy to change methodically. It can be randomized even as per my knowledge. Attack are theoretically possible using any of these protocols. ICMP is commonly used to flood a server with too many pings to respond to, or with one large ping packet that crashes the receiving device. This is also known as ping of death. So if we are sending a large ping packet, do you know that if I toggle the help in the ping, ping and help, you can see that we have IPv4 ping options, IPv6 ping options. We can also set the size of the ping in the data bytes to be sent. Okay, so we can actually ping a specific amount of data. So if we ping a package large enough and the server is not designed to handle such packets, it can directly lead to server crash. And attackers can use IPsec to flood the target with junk data or overly large security certificates. However, not all these protocols are practical for DDoS attack, and some types of attacks are made impossible by hardware updates. For example, ARP only operates within a local network. So an attacker would first need to connect to the local network before carrying out an DDoS attack. And ping of death attacks are not possible with modern hardware, which ignores IP packets that are too large. So if we are using some vintage or antique hardware which don't have this kind of protection, sending a large ping just is enough to stall the server. And how to L3 DDoS attack works? As with other types of DDoS attack, the attacker sends a large volume of junk network traffic via these protocols. There are various methods for doing this. Depending on the protocol, the junk traffic gets in the way of legitimate user traffic and slowing down the responses, blocking them altogether. Okay. We have already learned about ping flood, which is the millions of ping requests to a server at once. Smurf attack is something new. Smurf attack, yes, here we are, Smurf ping of death. So we are covering the articles as well. So in a Smurf DDoS attack, the attacker sends out ping request to thousands of servers spoofing the target's IP address in the ping request so that the responses go to the target, not to the attacker. It's a kind of reflection attack, I guess, but for ping. Reflection attack but with ping. Reflection attack, but with ping. Next, most modern networking hardware is no longer vulnerable to this attack. Next is ping of death. Okay, the ping of death is an ICMP ping of death attack. An attacker sends ping request that is larger than the maximum allowable size to the target. Routers along the way to the target will fragment the ping into smaller packets so that the target accepts them. But when it's try to reassemble the large packet from smaller fragments, the packet size exceeds the maximum and crashes the target. Modern devices are also not vulnerable. How does Cloudflare protect against the layer 3 DDoS attack? The Cloudflare Magic Transit is designed specifically to stop attacks on internal infrastructure, including DDoS. Okay, and we have just some form of revision here. So now I'm navigating to next chapter, but before that, let study something about what is Internet Protocol. One second. In the reader mode, yes. The Internet Protocol is a protocol or a set of rules for routing and addressing packet of data so that they can travel across network and arrive at correct destination. The data traversing the internet is divided into smaller pieces called packet. IP information is attached to each packet and helps information to file router to send packet to the right place. Every device or domain that connects to internet is assigned an IP address. Okay, which is a protocol, set of rules for routing, addressing packets, etc. Once the packet arrive at destination, they are handled differently depending on which TCP or UDP protocols are used in combination with IDP. Okay, so I've already told you what is a network protocol. In networking, a protocol is a standard way of doing certain actions or formatting data so that two or more devices are able to communicate with and understand each other. To understand why protocols are necessary, consider the process of mailing a letter. Okay, we already know how to mail a letter. I guess you know it. You have to write something in a envelope before sending it. You also have to uh, write a message inside the envelope or inside a page or in the envelope. So what is an IP address and how does an IP addressing work? So IP address is a unique identifier assigned to a device or domain connected to the internet. Each IP address is a series of characters. Suppose like this. Via DNS resolver, which translates to human readable domain, users are able to access without, one second, let me stop it. Okay. So each IP packet will contain both IP address of the device or the domain sending the packet and IP address of the intended recipient, much like how both the destination address and return address are included on the piece of a mail. Now, the fourth version of IP, IPv4 for short, was introduced in 1983. However, just as there are so many possible permutations for automobile license plate number, they have to be reformatted periodically. The supply of available IP4 address become depleted, so IPv6 address have many more characters and thus more permutations. However, IPv6 is not yet completely adopted and most domains and devices still have IPv4 address. Okay. Next, what is an IP packet? The IP packet is the actual data. The IP packets are created by adding an IP header, basically the addresses, to each packet of data before it sends on its way. IP header is just a series of bits, 1 or 0. It records several pieces of information about the packet, including the sending and receiving IP address. IP headers also report header length, packet length, time to leave, which is the number of network hops a packet can make before it is discarded. Basically, it is the number of hops. Suppose if I open my um, narrator, annotator, suppose this is a router, this is also a router, this is also a router, and this is also a router. This is the sender, and this is a receiver. So this is the one hop, a data text. This is two hop. This is 3 hop, and finally the data reaches to the at the 4th hop. Suppose sender sends a data. Okay. So if the time to live is defined as 2 hops, then after first hop and this second hop, the data gets discarded here. So it only limits to its 2 hop. Okay. And let me skip it. Yes. Next is which transport protocol is being used, TCP, UDP, etc. In total, there are 14 fields of information in IPv4 headers. Although one of them is optional. Okay. And this is going very deep into this ACNA stuff, in which we have to sometimes remember the fields inside a header. But I have never seen a single question from the header. Yes, there was a few regarding what information or what is relevant and found in IPv4 headers, but not exactly the order or the sizes. There's no question in the CCN exam regarding that. How does the IP routing work? The internet is made up of interconnected large networks that are responsible for certain blocks of IP address. These large networks are known as autonomous systems. A variety of routing protocols, including BGP, help route packets across AES based on their destination IP address. Routers have routing tables that includes which autonomous systems the packet should travel in order to reach a desired destination as quickly as possible. So basically, autonomous system is a block of IP address assigned to a large network. Suppose take a brand, for example, Sony Corporation or Apple or Google or Microsoft. They have assigned us IP address which are particularly addressed to that organization, and that set of IP address is known as autonomous system. So, a variety of routing protocols, including BGP. The BGP is the godfather protocol, which, with the help of this, whole internet runs. So, BGP, which stands for Border Gateway Protocol, actually uses the autonomous system as a parameter to differentiate between the groups and multiples of IP addresses. So, simply the IP protocols, what it does is to uh, define the shortest and the smoothest pathway to make a data reach from A place to B place. That's all they do. Okay. And next, so we have something here again in dark mode. Let me switch to light mode again. Yes. So we have an application, then we have a transport layer. We are actually encapsulating some data. So encapsulating is actually a term that you will find in CCNA papers. Encapsulating means adding up of data. When the application layer, the data is transferred to transport layer. And finally, in the internet layer, which is also known as network layer, we have an IP header addition. And this goes in reverse if the data is received. First the IP header is removed, then TCP UDP header is removed, and then the actual data is presented by the application. For example, here in the Firefox. Switch to dark mode again. And yes, packet can take different route to the same place if necessary. Just as group of people driving to an agreed upon destination, they can take different route to get there. And TCP/IP. The TCP/IP, or a transmission control protocol over IP, is a transport protocol, making it dictates the way the data is sent and received. A TCP header is included in the data portion of each packet and uses a TCP/IP. But before transmitting data, TCP opens a connection with the recipient. TCP ensures that the all packet arrive in same order once transmission begins. Via TCP, the recipient will acknowledge receiving each packet that arrives. Missing packet will be sent again if the receipt is not acknowledged. Okay. And TCP is designed for reliability, not speed, because TCP has to make sure all packets arrive in order. Loading data via TCP/IP can take longer if some packets are missing. TCP/IP were originally designed to be used all together, and these are often referred to the TCP/IP suite. However, other transport protocols can be used with IP. Wait. It's also a favorite question. Why use TCP over UDP? And why use UDP over TCP? It's an interviewer favorite question. And this is the answer, that TCP is designed for reliability, not speed. That's all. If you want some reliable transfer of data, use TCP. And if you want speed, use UDP. Then interview will certainly ask you why UDP is faster than TCP. First of all, because where because it does not make sure all the packets are delivered. So suppose I am sending something or throwing some stones at you. Don't make a hassle of it. Suppose I am sharing something to you. Suppose I am writing a few messages, rounding it up and throwing it to you. It is faster than actually posting it via mail to you. But there's possibility if your home is far enough, my thrown message may not reach you. But certainly it is faster. So it does not establish a connection before beginning or receiving transmission. For example, if I want to send an SOS message, while sending SOS message, the top priority in my mind is to speed. How faster I can make this message reach to you. I may use some letter and notepads and send it to mail, and certainly the letter will receive to you. But if I shout SOS help, certainly it will make the network connection or the make the message transmission much more faster. And that's all about TCP and UDP. And do network switches refers to IP address? And here we talk about a different kind of device, which is the actually what to say, the most underrated or most unknown form of device. As a common people, I'm referring to only me, that I have already heard about router this, router that, a Geo router, an Airtel router, a very expensive router with 5 to 8 antennas by Asus or by MI company on the Amazon. But we actually never hear this term switch. Switch is a form of device that is used to connect multiple devices in a LAN, and basically what it is doing is collaborating the device to in order to pass the data from a single port. And the switches have multiple ports. Suppose if I want to differentiate between switch and router, the first thing that I will do is to make a screen annotations for sure. Let me switch to a simpler screen, and that is not simple enough, but certainly much more simpler than that. Wait a second. Yes. So what I was saying is that suppose difference between switch and router is actually a switch. If suppose if this is a switch and this is a router, both are of same size most of the time. But the main difference lies is that a switch has multiple ports in it, encompassing it may have 24 to 48 ports in a single switch, but a router have 3 or 4 ports in it. That's all. This is the main difference. Because what a switch does, let me switch to a brighter font. Yellow seems good. So this switch actually aggregates the data. Aggregates. And there's also a layer 2 switch and layer 3 switch. So layer 3 switch is kind of like router, but with multiple ports. We will see that in CCNA, not now. So the router basically what does it? It transfers the data. Data comes from this, data get out from this. Data also may come from this. It may get out from this. Actually, routers is used to connect multiple networks, while switch is used intended to connect multiple devices. I think you got my point. And continuing to our next thing, and which is low and slow attack. Move to our reading mode. Yes, a low and slow attack is a type of DOS or DDoS. So what is DOS and DDoS? DOS stands for denial of service, and DDoS attacks for distributed denial of service. DOS is when a single person is performing attacks or a single device is overwhelming this. And DDoS is when In order to attack someone, we gather a team or the stream of devices, that is DDoS, and that relies on a small stream of very slow traffic targeting application or server resources. Unlike more traditional brute force attack, the low and slow attack requires very little bandwidth and can be hard to mitigate. They generate traffic that is very difficult to distinguish from normal traffic, while large scale DDoS attacks are very likely to be noticed quickly. The low and slow attack can go undetected for long period of time, all while denying or slowing service for the real users. Okay. Because they do not require a lot of resource to pull off, low and slow attacks can be successfully launched using a single computer, as opposed to the more distributed attacks that may require a botnet. Two of the more popular or tools for launching a low and slow attack is Slow Loris and Rudy. And what actually these attacks do? These attacks target thread-based web servers with aim of trying up every thread with slow request, thereby preventing genuine users from accessing the service. This is accomplished by transmitting a data very slowly, but just as fast enough to prevent the server from timing out. Think of the four-lane bridge with a toll booth for each lane. Drivers pull off the toll booth, hand over a bill or a handful of coins, then drive across the bridge, opening up the lane for the next driver. Now imagine four drivers showing up once, occupying every open lane, while they each slowly hand pennies over toll booth, one goes clogging up all. Okay. Okay. Uh, I can also explain it 1 second via this. In order to make a blank screen, I can do is to make the console large enough and then meta shift and print. Yes. So what this is, suppose this is an highway of four lanes. One, two lanes, three lanes, and four lanes. And here we have a toll booth. Okay. I'm sure that I am visible. And suppose there's a traffic T1, T2, T3, and this is filled with this same thing. And the toll charges of 50 rupees. Okay, for my Indian audience mostly. And suppose here we have a annoyance 1, annoyance 2, annoyance 3, and annoyance 4. For counting 50 rupees, what these annoyances are doing is to give them 1 rupee coin slowly for the until the 50 rupees came. And just after that, there's another annoyance coming on the way to do in order to prevent the traffic from doing so. So this is annoyance 5. And suppose you are running a dual core CPU or a quad core CPU. So you have 4 cores. So suppose these lanes are 4 cores. You are assigning a slow task. This task is not slow enough, so it can be denied because they are actually paying the data. They are doing something, but they are doing something in a very lame way, very slow way. So the actual data that you want, the T1, T2, and T3 is left hanging out. So this is all. This is all about what? This is all about low and slow attack. The slow Loris tool connects to a server and then slowly sends the partial HTTP headers. This causes the server to keep the connection open so it can receive the rest of the headers, tying up to the thread. Another tool called Rudy, Rudy stands for Are You Dead Yet? Generates HTTP post requests to fill out form fields. It tells the server how much data is expected, but then sends the data in a very slowly. Its server keeps the connection open because it is anticipating more data. Yet another type of low and slow attack is SOC stress attack, which exploits a vulnerability in TCP/IP three-way handshake, creating an indefinite connection. And how can we prevent it or detect it? The rate detection techniques used to identify and stop traditional DDoS attack which will not pick up on low slow attack since they look like normal traffic. The best shot at detecting them is careful monitoring and logging of server resources uses with behavioral analysis. Suppose a same thing is tying too much time to a CPU than the regular traffic, then it is chance that it was a slow attack. Compare user traffic and user behavior during normal times to the traffic during the potential attack period. And if servers are performing slowly or crashing at a low and slow attack is suspected, one sign of such attack is that the normal user processes take much longer. If a user action like filling out a form typically takes a few seconds, but instead taking minutes or hours, occupying far more server resources than normal, a low and slow attack may be the cause. Once a slow attack is detected, mitigation is another issue. And one way to mitigate low and slow attack is to upgrade your server availability. The more connections you have, these connections they can maintain. So basically in our lane example, suppose we were using a quad core CPU. We can put an octa core CPU there. So we have 4 more lanes in it and the attack can be mitigated. Kind of. Another solution is using a reverse proxy, and which is a topic of its own. We will study reverse proxy in our upcoming videos. And for a very surface level talk, the proxy is another device placed before basically proxy is another computer placed before actual servers. So the every other device can see that's a different device that is sharing to data user, uh, helping or preventing the our actual computer's IP address exposing to the world, and which can also helps to mitigate the low and slow attack before they ever reach your origin server. Origin basically stands for original server. And Cloudflare also have some DDoS protections against low and slow attack, which is quite expected. Next is meme cached DDoS attack. What is a meme cached DDoS attack? A meme cache distributed denial of attack is a type of cyber attack in which an attacker attempts to overload a target victim internet traffic. The attacker spoof requests to a vulnerable UDP meme cache server. And what the meme cache server is? When the flood potentially overwhelming victim resource, while the target's internet infrastructure is overloaded, new requests cannot be processed and regular traffic is unable to access the internet, resulting in denial of service. Okay, so here is the data centers in Cloudflare global network that are relative amount of meme cached attack traffic they received during a recent attack. Okay, a meme cached attack. Meme. How should I pronounce it? Copy it. Let's search it. Meme cached pronunciation. No, we don't have. We have to watch some video. No, there's a crash course. Let me it meme cache. Meme cache. Because it refers to like memory. Okay. It operates similarly to all DDoS amplification attacks. For example, the NTP amplification or DNS amplification. This attack works by sending spoof requests to a vulnerable server, which then responds with a larger amount of data than the initial request, magnifying the volume of traffic. The meme cache or the mem cache amplification can be thought in context of a malicious teenager calling a restaurant and I will have of everything. The same thing. This method of amplification is possible because the memcache server have option to operate using the UDP protocol. The UDP is a network protocol that allows the sending of data without first getting what's no and what's a handshake, and which is a network process where both sides agree to a communication. So what is a handshake? Handshake is a network process when both sides agree to a communication. I have to copy it and paste it because it's such a great definition. Handshake in in networking is a network process where both sides agree to the communication. UDP is utilized because the targeted host never consulted on whether or not they are willing to receive the data. allowing for a massive amount of data to be sent to the target without their prior consent. An attacker implants large payload of data on exposed memcache server. Next, the attacker spoofs and gets a request with an IP address of targeted victim. The vulnerable memcache server that receives the request, which is trying to be helpful by responding, sending a large response to an target, and the targeted server or surrounding infrastructure is unable to process the large amount of data sent from this memcache server, resulting in overload and denial of service of legitimate request. And this is a 260 GB per second memcache attack against the Cloudflare's network being mitigated. And how big can a memcache amplification attack be? The amplification, this attack is truly staggering. In practice, we have witnessed amplification with hopping of 51,200 times. That means for a 15 byte request, a 750 KB response can be sent. Okay, this represents a massive amplification factor and security risk to web properties that are unable to shoulder the weight of this volume of attack traffic. Having such large amplification coupled with vulnerable servers makes Memcache a prime use case for attackers looking to launch DDoS attacks against various targets. And this can be mitigated by disabling UDP. Okay. And yes, here also come that the default, by default, this server is vulnerable because UDP is enabled. So you just you make sure to change the default settings, even of your smartphone, the default passwords, the default open settings that they can uh, able to suppose remote connections, etc., in order to prevent it from spying on you, or it may be controlled by someone else. Next is firewall memcache servers. By firewalling memcache servers from internet, system administrators are able to use the UDP for memcache if necessary without exposure. Next is prevent IP spoofing. As long as the IP address can be spoofed, DDoS attack can make use of the vulnerability to direct traffic to victim network. Preventing IP spoofing is a larger solution that cannot be implemented by any particular administrator. It requires transit provider to not allow any packets to leave their network that have a source IP originating. So it is a task for network administrator. In other words, companies such as ISP must filter traffic such as packet can that leave their network are not allowed to pretend to be a different network somewhere else, which is itself is a violation of privacy, I guess. If all major transit providers implement this type of filtration, spoofing based attacks would disappear overnight. But should they do? Let's ask a ChatGPT this question. Summon our best friend ChatGPT, zooming it to 200% and asking it, will it not be a violation of privacy and free speech? Let's see. This is intended to prevent attack like DDoS, which rely. You raise a valid concern whether this kind of filtering could potentially infringe upon privacy or free speech. Yes. Impact on anonymity. Some users rely on IP address spoofing for use this service like VPN or Tor to mask their real IP address for privacy concern. By enforcing strict filtering to ensure that IP address cannot be easily spoofed, there could be concern that privacy tools might be affected. Okay. VPN and proxy services might also be get affected, and we get some censorship risk because some content provider actually blocks the content depending on the IP address, because IP address is sometimes or most of the times tied to a region, a specific area. So if an ISP is given the power to filter or block certain types of traffic, there is potential for overreach. A regime could use technology to prevent dissenting voice, sorry, or silent critics by blocking access to platforms or services allowing free expression. And we will also find some issues in anonymous communication, because especially in authoritarian regimes, if an IP address verification is enforced too rigidly, it could undermine its ability. It would be harder to hide one's identity or location, and this could have a chilling effect on free speech. And particularly for whistleblower or journalist or activist operating in hostile environment. Okay, and now next is balancing security and privacy, selective enforcement. Okay, rather than blanket filtering, an ISP and transit provider could implement filtering system that only apply to a certain type of traffic. For example, traffics associated with DDoS attack. This would minimize the impact, while legitimate users can still address malicious traffic. Use of privacy respecting technology. Okay, okay. Transparency and accountability, and that enforce IP address filtering should be transparent. Okay. And finally, the collaboration. In conclusion, strict enforcement. Matlab, excess of anything. It means that the excess of anything is bad. If something is blanket filtered, matlab excessively filtered, then it going to be have problems. And next is develop software with reduced UDP responses. Another way to eliminate amplification is to remove the amplification factor to any incoming request. If the response data as a result of UDP request is smaller than or longer initial request, amplification is no longer possible. And after reading all this, actually, I remembered another video from Fireship. You must watch this video. Wait a second, let it load. Yes, this software bug iceberg. This was the great video that represents how the bug in software created these kind of attacks, and some even funny or crazier ones. Make sure to watch that video. And how much time did I spend making this? We are already approx 47 minutes in the video. Let's study a new another topic again, which is memcached attack. We have done it. NTP amplification. The NTP amplification attack is a reflection-based volumetric distributed denial of service attack, in which an attacker exploits our NTP network time protocol server in functionality in order to overwhelm a targeted network or server with an amplified amount of UDP traffic. And again, we are studying about UDP. We have just seen that the UDP does not require an handshake. So it does not requires any what is the permission in order to send some data. And why? And there is a restriction, or there is a limitation that we use UDP for network time protocol, because NTP network time protocol need to be as accurate as possible. And in order to fastly share some data, we are going to use the UDP. And do you know that there's another protocol called PTP, which stands for Precision Time Protocol, which is much more precise, because as I remember, it works in nanoseconds disparities, and the network time protocol works in milliseconds disparities or differences. Let's clear it. Clear the chat first. Differences between NTP and UDP. No. PTP, network time protocol, and uh, precision time protocol. Precision, yes, it is worked in milliseconds, while while PTP works in where nanoseconds. Next is NTP use a hierarchical system, while PTP uses a master slave system. Okay. It works over Ethernet and can run over UDP as well, but it uses a specific PTP message for synchronization. Okay. So here is a summary, and we will go by summary. So the NTP has a precision of millisecond and microsecond, while the PTP has a precision of nanoseconds. Its protocol is hierarchical. Hierarchical means one device may share its data to another and another will share to it. And the PTP has master slave, means only one device can be master and other can be slaves. So it directly correlates to the main device. And it has an accuracy of 1 to 50 milliseconds. And it has accuracy of 1 nanoseconds. And both are totally depends on hardware and the actual network used. And it has a low network load, and it has a higher network load because of the, especially with the hardware support, because it need to keep talking to its master in order to fetch the latest value. It has use cases, it has general synchronization. For example, this my desktop, which is actually on 7:19 p.m, is actually fetching this time using a network time protocol. And PTP, it is used by high precision applications, for example, telecom, industrial automations, financial trading, etc. The time sources are external server, GPS, atomic clocks. But PTP, we have time servers like master clock, GPS, and atomic clocks. And error correction, network delay compensation, clock drift adjustment, advanced network delay compensation with etc. And tip is sufficient for everyday application, while sub millisecond precision is acceptable, while PTP is the go-to solution for application requiring very high precision, often in industrial or financial environment. That's a thing that I just want to make you know. And now continuing with our NTP amplification. All amplification attacks exploit a disparity in bandwidth cost between an attacker and a targeted web resource. When the disparity in cost is magnified across many requests, the resulting volume of traffic can disrupt the network infrastructure. By sending small queries that result in large responses, the malicious user is able to get more from less. When multiplying this magnification by having each bot in a botnet making similar requests, the attack is both obfuscated from detecting and reaping the benefits of increasing. So, this is very good explanation about amplification attacks. So what is? The amplification attacks exploits a disparity in bandwidth cost between an attacker and the targeted web resource. So in order to initiate attack, it takes very much less. Okay. By next is DNS flood attack differ from DNS amplification attack. Unlike DNS flood, the amplification reflect and amplify the traffic of unsecured DNS server in order to hide the origin of the attack and increase its effectiveness. DNS amplification attack use devices with smaller bandwidth connection to make requests to unsecured DNS server. The devices make small requests for a very large DNS record, but when making the request, the attacker forged the return address to be of intended victim. The amplification allows the attacker to take out the larger target with only limited resource. Uh, I think we haven't seen the DNS flood attack, so I will open this in the side tab. Next, the DNS amplification or NTP amplification, much like DNS amplification, can be thought of context of malicious teenager. Same thing again. The NTP is designed to allow internet connected device to synchronize their internet clock. Serves an important function by exploiting a monolith command enabled on some NTP servers. An attacker is able to multiply their initial request. This command is enabled by default on large devices with the large 600 sources, and the monolith requires server with 600 addresses in memory with 206 times larger than the initial request. This means an attacker with 1 GB of internet traffic can deliver up to a 200 plus gigabytes of attack, a massive increase in resulting attack traffic. An NTP amplification can be broken into 4 steps. An attacker uses a botnet to send UDP packets with a spoof IP address to an NTP server, which has its monolith command enabled. The spoofed IP address on each packet points to the real IP address. Each UDP make a request to the NTP server using its non-list command, resulting in large response. Okay, so I think the crux of this is where is monolith. So if this command is disabled, it might be able to be mitigated Okay, because UDP header do not require an handshake, the NTP server will send large responses without verifying. Okay. These facts coupled with a built-in command which by default send large responses makes NTP server an excellent reflection source. Okay. For an individual or company running a website, the mitigation options are limited. This comes from a fact that the individual server, while it might be the target, is not where the main effect of volumetric attack is felt. Due to the high amount of traffic generated, the traffic infrastructure surrounding the server feels the impact. As a result, the ISP may block hole all the traffic. Okay. And here we are. Disable monlist. Use the number of NTP servers to support the monlist command. Again, what the actual monlist command is? See and ask the GPT. Explain. Oh, explain monlist command. Okay. The monlist command is a network diagnostic tool that was historically used with NTP to gather information about NTP clients connected to a particular NTP server. It would query the NTP server for a list of IP address of clients that had recently communicated with the server. This command is primarily associated with NTP based amplification attack and type of distributed denial of service attack. Okay. Purpose of monolith: monitor NTP activity and abuse in amplification attacks. Okay. So simply monolith feature can be disabled. Implement the rate limiting on NTP and ensuring that the NTP servers are not open to public and properly firewalled. The simple solution is patching the monolith vulnerability and to disable the command. All the version of NTP software prior to 4.2.7 are vulnerable by default. And by upgrading an NTP server, okay, source IP verification. Proof a packet leaving the network because UDP request being attacked by okay. Because UDP request being sent by attackers botnet must have a source IP address spoof to the victim's IP. The key component is reducing the effectiveness of UDP message over internet service provider reject. Okay, then we are again uh, rounded down to the same thing: the privacy concern and the anonymity concern. Okay, and let's see our NTP version. How can I see the NTP version of my Arch Linux? I use Arch by the way. Okay, we have to know the NTPD daemon. Okay, let's run this command on our console. Once again, we don't have an NTP daemon. Let me write it down: NTP daemon and with version. Actually, command not found. Then we have another command chrony and version. We don't have an crony. Check the package version from the pacman and check for the for NTPD. Okay. Actually, we don't have the command. Actually, I don't have any of them installed. How my system is getting time information, just the basic facts. I didn't mean to hurt. Okay. Okay, now we are using this system D. Okay. Let me copy it simply, paste it here, check it. Yes, we are using system D, and we have contacted a time server. Okay. And we can check its status as well. Control C to end this, Control Shift B to paste this and enter. And yes, this is our local time, universal time, RTC time, clock is synchronized, NTP server is active, and that's all you need in this video. Thank you for joining with me, and we will continue this series. We already reached our 1 hour mark for the video, and see you guys in the another one. Thank you for joining me. We will certainly do quizzes, but in our upcoming video. So hang up for that. Thank you again. Thank you.